ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Tea Time Wagers with Brady Kannon. Going to take us through, I like to say, ARNIE'S Army, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, where we were just talking backstage, where I think, and I think he thinks too, that we're going to get under that 40-1 pre-flop price that has been cashing week to week on the PGA Tour. But before we bring Brady in, shout out to our proud sponsor and partnership of WagerWire. If you have not downloaded the app, please run over to Google Play or wherever you download the apps. It's free. Start keeping track of your wagers, your investments, keep track of your ROI, and take advantage of all the sports books in your state offering you match play, free wagers, or whatever promos that they are offering, and take advantage of them. And if you'd like to maybe a little flash cash, a little side hustle, send in an email to affiliate@wagerwire.com. Zach, Travis, the rest of the team and community will take good care of you. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. So without further ado, I'm just waiting a second. There we go. We're going to bring in the true star of this show, the one and only Mr. Brady Kannon. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you, Mr. Dawson? Good to be with you once again.
I'm doing great. Another weekend. I like to start our shows by going back to last weekend. Pre-flop, I loved where our plays were. A couple players came out, guns a blazing, and it just seemed like it took one or two holes, a couple holes in the back. I don't know if it was wind or what happened last weekend as another big I don't even want to say underdog. That's the bad word. A high-priced golfer cashes in on Sunday. Or Monday morning, I should say.
Right. Actually, Monday morning. Yeah, it's 2 weeks in a row for me that everything I've done pre-tournament has not gone swimmingly. I mean, it's been okay, but, an overall loss as far as the pre-tournament stuff. Just the past couple weeks, and knock on wood here. Prior to that, I had been turning a profit week in and week out with the top 20s and the head-to-heads and stuff like that. So you're bound to have some losing weeks. So hopefully we can turn it around this week. But thankfully, I was able to get down in game on Jake Knapp in Mexico a couple weeks ago, and then again on Austin Eckroat on Friday of last week. So that worked out and ended up, getting us, into the black or close to it, avoided the losses that we would have suffered had we not made that in-game play. But, I think last week was a little bit weird where the PGA National Champion course usually plays a lot more difficult. Of course, it was softened up. The course was softened a great deal by the rain that they had in the area prior to the tournament, and then some rain that, of course, we saw during the tournament. The rough was not as thick as it usually is, and the course played a lot easier. I mean, the winning score proposition bet, I believe, was around 10.5 under par. That's typically the number that we see out of a Honda Classic, in this case, the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches. And obviously, Austin Eckroat got all the way to 17 to win that event. So, and then you had, stoppages because of weather, stoppages, play suspended due to darkness early in the week when you had the full field out there. and then a Monday finish. So it was very discombobulated. It was atypical for what we're used to seeing out of that golf course. And maybe that contributed certainly to some of the fact that, you had a triple-digit price guy win this event. But the truth is as well, you didn't have a ton of star power in this event. And that's really 2 weeks in a row. 3 weeks ago, we had a signature event, the Genesis Invitational. Then you go to Mexico. Then you kick off the Florida Swing. And now this week, as you mentioned, ARNIE'S Army for the Arnold Palmer Invitational, another signature event. So you had those 2 golf tournaments in between where a lot of the big names skipped out. And so that, of course, lends itself to a higher priced player winning that particular tournament as well.
You're using the word, so I'm on the same page, signature event. Is there a difference between a signature event and that word that you use an awful lot, an elevated event?
Well, yeah, last year on the PGA Tour, they had these special events. I believe there are 8 of them this year. I think there was 8 of them last year as well. And it was kind of undecided if they called them designated events or elevated events or what have you. But the official term this year is signature event.
Okay. So my question to you is, you talked about going back in and finding the winner on Friday. So you do all the work leading up to, we do our show on Wednesday. Tonight you'll be on Sports Grid as well. We get to Thursday and the tee off. Do you then sit back, watch the first round, take a look at your pre-flop work? And is it just looking at form, or is it also looking at numbers when you're able to dive in on a player or players live?
Well, I think the first part of that process is to look at the players and the form and what they're actually doing on the course. And I always like to look at guys that may or may not have a hot putter. We saw it last week with Bud Colley, who led at the midway point. This guy had been off the tour for around 3 years. He was coming off of a major injury. He got in a car crash right around the Memorial, I believe, a few years ago, Jack Nicklaus's tournament there in Ohio. He got in a pretty brutal car wreck, and I'm glad he's okay. But it took him this long to get back onto the tour, and there he finds himself in the lead after 36 holes. But what I took a look at was I think he was in second place or first place in the field for strokes gained putting at the 36-hole mark. Yet he was only hitting 50% of the fairways. He ranked low in the field as far as strokes gained approach. So, his ball striking, his work off the tee and his iron play was not great, but the putter was carrying him. And for me, that is a bad formula because, as we've talked about on the show before, Jeff, a putter can go hot and cold any minute. You could have a hot putter for 9 holes and a nice cold putter for the next 9 holes. So for a putter to stay that hot over the course of 4 days is an absolute rarity. So what I saw out of Bud Colley was, hey, this guy's on fire with the flat stick, but otherwise the game's not really there. So he was not a guy I was going to back. Eckroat, on the other hand, had a putter going that was pretty good. I think he was ranked 27th in the field for strokes gained putting, but his ball striking was excellent. Off the tee, on approach, greens in regulation. He was in the top 15 or 5. It was kind of scattered, but basically he was near the top in all those ball striking categories. And that was also, I believe, how the course profiled as well. PGA National there for the Cognizant Classic, definitely a ball striker's track. And he wasn't putting he was putting well, but not crazy good like Bud Colley. So I felt if his ball striking remained the same, and even if his putter cooled off a little bit, he was still going to be okay. But at the same time, his putter also had room to improve. And it actually did. He went into that Monday finish where his strokes gained putting had improved to 13th in the field. And his ball striking was still right there, top 5, top 10 in the big categories. So, he was really, even going into the Monday finish when he was at about minus 175 to win it, I still felt it was a good play. But that's the type of thing I look at first, is how these guys are going. What's the form that is going on inside of the golf tournament? And are there red flags like that red hot putter or ice cold putter or what have you? And then obviously you look at the price, and does the price make sense? But first and foremost, I want to find guys where I'm finding a possible edge or a possible reason to go against them.
And lastly, before we dig into Bay Hill this weekend, I kept seeing Rory lurking, and he was the big pre-flop favorite. I think in some spots, maybe if I'm correct on this, at some point Friday, maybe even early Saturday, even 3-4 shots back, was like one of the favorites to win. At any point were you fearful that here comes Rory, he's going to come, not only, come and tie this, but then lap the field?
Yeah, great question. And it goes to what I was talking about in the question prior. Rory got all the way to 8 under par at the midway point, just 3 shots off of Colley's lead. He was at that time, and you talk about looking at price, at that time, he was about half of the price what he was pre-tournament to go on and win. So, prior to Thursday's start, he was around 8 or 9 to win, 8 or 9 to 1 to win the Cognizant Classic. At the midway point, now 3 shots off the lead, he was at plus 450 and was still the lowest priced player in the field. And what he was doing was putting really well, like I take that back. He was not putting very well. At that point, he was ranked 59th in the field in strokes gained putting. And when they made the cut, if you recall, the cut bled over into Saturday morning because they had to end on Friday because of darkness. So there are a few other players out there on Saturday morning that had to finish up their rounds. So Rory's ranking 59th in putting. By the time you made the cut, that was near the bottom. He also ranked 56th in strokes gained approach. So his iron play nor his putting was very good at that point, yet he had found a way to get himself to 8 under. And then you look at the price, and I'm like, there's no way I can back a guy that doesn't stack up, doesn't check the boxes for me on what he's doing on the course. And then on top of that, you add in the fact that he's got the lowest price here, which was half of what his pre-tournament price was. And I wrote an article for the tour, and I said, could Rory go on and win this? Of course. But what he's got going on in current form combined with the price, it's not a guy I'm going to be backing. And he was, we have a column called draws and fades. Who are you going to back and who are you going to fade? And Rory made the column in the way of a fade. And, sure enough, he was pretty pedestrian for the rest of the tournament. On the easier 9, the front 9 at PGA National, he pretty much shot even par for the next 2 days and never really put his foot on the gas and did much of anything. Now, it could be a different story this week, but just analyzing it, at the midway point, Rory was not in the mode of being a draw or someone I was going to back at that point.
Pre-flop favorites, I looked about an hour ago before we came on here live from Circa. Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, the 1-2 punch as the favorites. Then there's a gap. There's some, Xander Schauffele, obviously, Victor, Morikawa. There's some star-studded golfers this weekend. Bay Hill, Bermuda Grass, Kitsuyama, defending champ. Before I turn it over to you, initial thoughts, just looking at the leaderboard and the odds board that, before we start to dig into your plays.
Well, obviously, like you say, Scotty and Rory, very short. And then once again, it seems like it's the third straight week in a row that we've seen a pretty big gap to the next player on the board. And, you might have Victor Hovland or Schauffele or Oberg, they're all in the neighborhood of 16, 17, 20. So pretty big gap there. And I understand that. And, Scotty Scheffler contended here last year. I was on him. I think he ended up finishing 3rd. Rory's won here before. Scheffler's won here before as well. It's absolutely a ball striker's course. It's a very difficult course, is Bay Hill. It's been a great test over the years. And you talked about it, when we were talking about these guys, these long odds players winning golf tournaments. Bay Hill in the past has typically catered to, the cream rising to the crop. Tiger Woods won here 8 times. Rory, Scotty, Jason Day, Mark Leishman. I mean, there's been some big name stars that have won at Bay Hill. And I think we'll get that again. And obviously we have the field to back that up. Being at a signature event, you've got all the top guys in the world here. So I think this one is probably going to it'll probably end up being our shortest price player of the year. Jake Knapp in Mexico in the neighborhood of 40 or 45 to 1 has been the shortest priced winner so far on tour this season. I think we'll be inside of 40. I think you're probably looking at you could have Scheffler or Rory at single digits. But I really like that camp that is somewhere between, say, 15 and 35. I think your winner might come from that crop. Rough is really thick this week. The fairways are relatively narrow. It's a long course at nearly 7,500 yards. You've got big, relatively flat Bermuda grass greens. It's similar in a sense to last week that you have to be a ball striker, but the course is much longer. It's a par 72. You've got more par 5s to attack. You've got much thicker rough. They are expecting a little bit of moisture. So, the rain might soften up the course a little bit, but it'll probably make that rough even more difficult to hit out of. So the winning score proposition bet for this week is once again in the neighborhood of 10 or 11 or so under par. So, and with the weather forecast, a little bit of wind, anywhere from 10 to 20 miles an hour, and that will certainly affect a golf ball. I think it's going to be difficult. And yeah, if you gave one of my pre-tournament bets right now, you said, we're going to give this guy 11 under par, I'd probably take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I love the way the odds board is setting up. These are one of my favorites. In other words, I'm a big Scotty fan. I love Rory, but then that gap, and I almost want to say the soft spot where you can get the 16 to 18 to 1s, or you can get 2 of the 20, 25 to 1s and feel comfortable. And then, on Sunday, you can say, hey, Scotty or Rory at 6 to 1, 7 to 1 beat me, but I'd rather have a little more meat on the bone. And as you said, I really expect the cream to rise to the top here, but I have to look at the odd in the tote board as well and say, hey, I can get almost 2 golfers versus the price of one of the big favorites.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Kurt Kitayama last year winning in the neighborhood of, I think I've seen 100 to 200 to 1 even, was certainly an outlier. I think that will probably revert this year. And right there chasing him down was Jordan Spieth and Scotty Scheffler, as I mentioned. So there were certainly some big names on the board last year, right in the thick of it down the stretch here. But I don't think we're going to get a triple-digit winner this week. I do believe this will be our shortest price winner. And, like you're saying, from a wagering standpoint, you are kind of getting a 2-for-1 when you're looking at, guys in that 20 to 25 neighborhood. The outright market, we've talked about this before as well, Jeff. It's only one guy that can cash your ticket. It's not a top 20 finish. It's not a top 10 finish. It's just that one guy. So yeah, if you spend a lot, you outlay a lot for a guy that's 6, 7 to 1, it's tough if he doesn't come through when you could have outlaid less, kind of that 2-for-1 thinking, backing a guy that's 25 or 30 to 1.
I 100% agree. And of course, we all want to hold that one ticket, the Holy Grail, as we proceed week to week, some of these tournaments with, 150 golfers. And I see some of the tickets on social media, $4,000 on one guy. And I'm like, 149 of these tickets are going to be losers. So if you're not sprinkle in the infield, as I like to say, and take some shots with 4, 5, 6, 7. And then as you did again on Friday, as the tournament progresses, you can dive into the live wagering. You can go in after a round and then take a look at the adjusted odds. Circa does an amazing job, and a lot of these guys, DraftKings has shot-to-shot moving odds, so there's always an opportunity to increase the portfolio and increase your opportunities. I'm not going to use the word hedging on Thursday or Friday, especially, at least get to Saturday and moving day.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, I think just the business of golf wagering offers so many possibilities. Top nationality, top 20, top 10, top continental European, these three guys to make the cut, these three guys to miss the cut. And the DraftKings and FanDuels of the world and many other books across the country. I mean, I would argue, and I don't know if this is true, but it seems like a wagering menu for golf is probably more expansive than just about any other sport on a week-to-week basis. Now, obviously, the Super Bowl is different with the prop menu, hundreds of pages of props available and this and that and the other. But I think just on a week-to-week basis, there's probably more ways to bet golf than I can think of in any other sport.
100%. That time of the show, I'm going to pull you right up front here, and you're going to take it away. Outrights, pre-flop, and then we can get into head-to-heads, top 20s, wherever you want to go today, sir. The fairway is yours.
All right, very good. Well, I'll start with one of those shorter shots at 17-1. I've seen him as low as 15 and as high as 19, but I think he's pretty much consensus around 16 or 17 now, and that is Viktor Hovland. He ended last year on an absolute tear for the FedEx Cup Series. And he's, really hasn't found that gear yet again this season. But he did show some signs 3 weeks ago at the Genesis Invitational when he finished 19th. And I really think this particular golf course, Bay Hill, is absolutely right up his alley. We call the stat total driving. It's a combination of distance and accuracy. If you look at some of the more modern metrics, strokes gained off the tee, driving distance is obviously an age-old metric, but you get the picture here. The big picture of total driving, hitting it long and straight, however you want to measure that, is very important at this golf course. And Viktor Hovland is one of the very best in the world at that skill. Also, long iron play. Bay Hill, when you include the par 3 holes, has more approach shots of 200 yards or more than any other course on the tour rotation. So long iron play is very important. And then, of course, greens in regulation, another course that's pretty much important week in and week out, but it is emphasized here at Bay Hill. So it's all about ball striking once again. And the short game certainly is important because you are going to miss some greens here and there, and you're going to have to get up and down from the rough. But I think it's more so important about getting to the green than what you do around the green. And if there's any weakness in Viktor Hovland's game, the fact that it's improved a lot over the last couple of years, it is his short game and chipping and pitching around the green. So I think that's why this course is so perfect for him, and it could possibly be his coming out party in 2024. That party ended at the end of the 2023 season, and like I say, he hasn't really shown up again for us yet this season, but I think it could be this week. He's finished 10th here in the past and also runner-up here at Bay Hill. Also, course history, very powerful. Guys that tend to play well at Bay Hill tend to do so year in and year out. One of the stronger courses for that as well on the PGA Tour. Correlated courses I used this week. I used Congaree in South Carolina, the Phoenix Open, TPC Scottsdale. We've seen a lot of crossover success there. Oak Hill, where they held the PGA Championship last year, and then also Southern Hills, where they held the PGA Championship in 2022, Memorial Park in Houston, Quail Hollow, all those courses, ball striking, total driving, long iron. Viktor Hovland has had great success. I mentioned how hot he was last year. He won at Olympia Fields. That was another correlated course for me. He finished runner-up at Oak Hill at the PGA Championship. He's finished 15th in Houston before. So not only has he done well here at Bay Hill, not only does he have the skill set that makes sense, but he's also done well on courses that relate to this golf course as well. Sam Burns at 26-1. I don't think his profile sets up as strongly as Victor Hovland's does for this golf course, but what he's got on Hovland is 4 weeks in a row of top 10 finishes. So Sam Burns is arguably the hottest player in this field right now. The way he's going, his last top 10 finish came at the Genesis Invitational 3 weeks ago, where he did indeed finish 10th. He's also got a 3rd place and a 6th place finish in Phoenix, another one of my correlated courses. He's finished 7th twice in Houston, 7th at Congaree, top 20 at Southern Hills at that PGA, and a top 10 or a top 15 rather at Olympia Fields. And Burns, also one of the very best putters in this field on Bermuda grass greens. Cam Young at 30-1. He is definitely of the profile of Victor Hovland, a tremendous driver of the golf ball, a tremendous long iron player, ball striker extraordinaire. He has finished 10th and 13th here before. He was 8th this year in Phoenix, 3rd at the PGA at Southern Hills, and a 15th place finish at Olympia Fields. I mentioned the 8th place finish in Phoenix, also a 16th at the Genesis just 3 weeks ago, and last week was 4th at the Cognizant Classic. So the course form, the current form, the related course form, all fits right now for Cam Young. If you look at what he's done over the last 24 rounds, he is 5th in this field for strokes gained off the tee, 17th for greens in regulation gained, and he ranks in the top 10 in this field for hole proximity from 175 to 200 plus yards. So he's really getting it done on all fronts. 30-1, not too bad on a guy that seems to make a lot of sense this week. Matt Fitzpatrick at 32-1, and I've seen his price drop to as low as 24. Tremendous history on the correlated courses. And let's say it like it is here. He's a U.S. Open winner. Who typically wins U.S. Opens? Tremendous ball strikers. So it makes sense that Fitzpatrick has had success not only at this course, but on the related courses as well. 14th and 9th place finishes here at Bay Hill, 15th and 10th place finishes in Phoenix, 10th and 13th at Congaree in South Carolina, a 5th at Southern Hills for the 2022 PGA Championship, a 6th place and a runner-up finish at Olympia Fields, where they had the BMW Championship a couple times in the last few years. Over the last 24 rounds, he's 8th in this field for hole proximity from 175 to 200 yards and 23rd for strokes gained putting on Bermuda grass. So he makes a lot of sense as well. Tommy Fleetwood at 32-1, the Englishman, plays difficult golf courses extremely well. One of the best in this field, top 5 in this field on difficult golf courses. Another excellent long iron player. He's got 3 top 10 finishes here at Bay Hill. As far as the correlated courses, a 4th at Congaree, a 5th at Southern Hills, a 5th and a 14th at Quail Hollow, and an 18th at Oak Hill in last year's PGA Championship. He's also 15th in hole proximity from 200 yards or better over the last 24 rounds. And then finally, for my longest shot, and I actually have seen this price drift all the way to 70-1, 55-1 was the best I could find earlier in the week. And it's another guy that absolutely fits the mold of a long iron player, a greens in regulation player, a total driving type player. And that's really been the hallmark of his entire career. And that's Keegan Bradley, again, at 55-1. I mentioned the approach shots at Bay Hill being 200 yards or better. Over the last 24 rounds, Bradley is 28th in this field for greens in regulation gained, 22nd for driving distance, and 19th in hole proximity from 200 yards or better. 4 top 10 finishes in the past just at this golf tournament, including a runner-up. If you look at what he's done at Bay Hill, that's pretty much a resume that would qualify for me right there with what he's done just at this golf course. So I thought the way he lines up, what he's done in the past, what the signature of his game has been in the past, and he's also been a much improved putter over the last couple of years. I thought all of that made sense, worth taking a shot at 55-1 or better if you can find it, as the market has drifted just a little bit as the week has gone on. So that's it, Jeff. 6 outright plays for me pre-tournament.
And you're hit right in my soft spots here, starting with Victor, obviously at 17-1, Burns 26-1, Cam Young 30-1, Fitzy at 32-1, but as we know, you move numbers, so it's down to 24-1 with Fleetwood and Bradley. So quite an arsenal here, or a stable pre-flop. I can't wait to get those in myself.
Jeff, I should remind everybody that I'm only listing the outright prices here, but it's really a procedure, or what I do week in and week out is play all of these guys that I played outright. I also play them for a top 20 finish. Now, those prices are going to be more expensive this week. I think the most expensive one was Victor Hovland, anywhere from -150 to -175 for a top 20 finish. But that's because we've got a no-cut event and only 69 players in the field. But I didn't stray away from my routine. Again, I played all my outrights for a top 20 finish as well. And I risk more money on the top 20 than I do the outright. The outright market is my lowest area of risk, and I will bump that up a little bit for the top 20 finish.
And I'm glad that you reiterated that, because we're going to be here every week all the way to almost Thanksgiving. And we will stress this on a week-to-week basis, because, again, there is only one winner. So, you're taking your swings here, 6 of them pre-flop. But again, of the 6, maybe 3, 4 end up in the top 20. That
would be great. 4 in the top 20 would be super.
That would be a real good week there. Head-to-heads, or do you have any more top 20s that didn't make your cut this week to on the pre-flop for the outrights?
No, a smaller field, just 69 players in this signature event. So I just stuck with my typical routine of the guys I land on outright. I also add them for a top 20. Didn't go with anything additional there. Did not play a first round leader market. I do know that there is some sharp play, not only in the outright market, but also in the first round leader market for Cam Young. He made my card as an outright. I've also seen respected play on Nick Taylor to be your first round leader, and also Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay currently leading the tour in first round scoring average, and Nick Taylor is 11th. So just a little bit of insight there that I was able to garner earlier today, but no plays for me in the first round leader market. I did play head to heads though, and this is where I risk the most amount of money. The outrights is the smallest, bump that up a little bit for the top 20 finish. And then my largest amount of risk is in the head to heads, because that is where the book has the smallest hold percentage and gives you as a bettor the best chance to win. I took Sam Burns at +105 over Patrick Cantlay, and I took Colin Morikawa at +108 over Patrick Cantlay. So a couple of different positions against Patrick Cantlay here. Patrick Cantlay has never been a great Florida player. Tremendous on the California swing, plays well at Pebble, plays well at the Amex. We just saw him, almost win the Genesis Invitational. But when he gets over onto the Bermuda grass and in Florida, he is typically not has had as much success. Now, he has had a couple of decent finishes here at Bay Hill, but generally speaking, over the course of his career, and it's not to say he won't do well this week. He has all the tools. He's an excellent total driver, all that good stuff that you need here. But I have a feeling that Sam Burns and Colin Morikawa can beat him this week, and I like the plus money prices to do so. This one is a decent sized minus money price, -130 on Adam Scott over Wyndham Clark. And then your guy, the Todd father, Jeff, Brendan Todd, at a big number, +139 to beat Patrick Rogers in a head-to-head full tournament matchups. All these matchups are for full tournament, not just a single round. Brendan Todd has actually had good success here. We know how accurate he is off the tee. We know he hits greens in regulation. He's got a tremendous short game. He's not your typical player that you would think would have success at Bay Hill because he's not that big hitting long iron type guy, but he has had success here in the past. And I think that price is out of whack for sure to get past Patrick Rogers.
Smiling ear to ear when I hear the Todd father. OMG. So super stoked there. I want to shout out to Mr. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights, and good friend, Mr. Brian Gaskell. Big fan of our show. Does a lot of DFS, DraftKings, sends me his tickets and stuff. Big fan of the show. So rooting us the best. He says, get hot, boys. As we always wrap this up, Brady, I know the crawl has been going the whole time. They can find you, obviously, at Las Vegas Golfer on X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it, at golf_com, Golf Bet PGA Tour, and on Sports Grid. But as we always finish this show, tell them exactly where to find all your great work, Brady.
Yeah, I mentioned that article. I do an article every week where I speak with a lot of bookmakers around the country. I mentioned Cam Young garnering some sharp action for first round leader and an outright. That article should be up pretty quickly if it's not already at PGAtour.com. You go under the heading of Golf Bet. I have that article that comes out every Wednesday. Then I also do a Sunday recap article, and on occasion I'll do a midway point after the cut article, the draws and fades article that I referenced a little bit earlier in the program. Again, PGAtour.com under Golf Bet for all of that. Golf.com, my article comes out there on Tuesdays. And basically all of that is updated when I'm on Sports Grid. I'm on Sports Grid about 5 or 6 days a week, host a show on there on Saturday evenings, beginning at 10 p.m. Eastern time, where of course we go over golf and everything else that's going on at the time. But pretty much you can find out all of that information. I typically keep everything updated pretty well at that spot.
Well, I can't wait. I got some work to do. My books are anxiously awaiting. A shout out again to everyone watching and following. To all the newcomers, we will be here every Wednesday at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, unless schedule change due to conflict. If you are new to East Coast Sports Investors, jump on over to YouTube and follow us on East Coast Sports Investors. There, subscribe. It's free. Make sure you jump over to Twitter or X and follow Brady at Las Vegas Golfer and myself at EC Sports Invest. Tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m., myself and Julian Edlow will be there from DraftKings, and at 3 o'clock, Andrew McGinnis from Wager Talk. So thank you to Mr. Saylor as well as watching. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only star of this show, Mr. Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer, we wish everyone a blessed evening. Let's cash some tickets this week in golf. ARNIE'S Army to the rescue. So enjoy yourselves. We'll talk soon.